What's going on, everybody? It's PJ here with the CRNA Drip, and today we're going to talk about paying for CRNA school. What options do you have and what might be best for you? So let's get into it. So almost 99% of the time you will have to take out loans for CRNA school unless you've traveled and you've worked and you've saved and put off applying to school until you save the right amount to have for living expenses, for tuition, and everything. You just saved all the money in the world. I personally don't recommend putting off applying for school to save the money because there are options out there for you. But if that's something that you want to do because you just don't want to deal with loans, you don't want to be in debt, then that is a viable option for you. There's also options where you can enlist in a branch of the military, be it the Army, the Air Force. They have programs and scholarships available that will pay for your school up front, that will reimburse you, that will give you stipends while you're in school. In return, you'll have to owe them time in the military. So, and each branch has a different stipulation. So I think for the Army, it's for every 6 months of money that you borrow, you owe them 1 year of service. And for the Air Force, it may be something similar or a little bit different. So make sure you check out their websites for more in-depth and more correct information about that. Now, if you're like most of the world, then you'll need loans to pay for school. So, and traditionally in undergrad, you can get most of your grants and loans through FAFSA, and they will cover up all of your tuition. You may have to do like the Parent Plus loan, but you'll have that covered. Grad school, it's a little bit different. So FAFSA will give you some money in unsubsidized and subsidized loans, but it will not be anywhere close enough to pay for all of your schooling. So you will need supplemental loans to pay for the rest of school. Now, what are your options? The first and most common option probably is the Grad Plus loan, which is a supplemental loan offered by the government that will pay up to 100% of your tuition and whatever expenses you need, minus the money that FAFSA will give you for your unsubsidized and subsidized loans. So if your program is $100,000 and FAFSA is going to give you $20,000, then the Grad Plus loan will supplement the additional $80,000. Now, in your tuition, your housing will be included in that, transportation will be included in that, and all that other stuff will be in that breakdown in your tuition. So all of that money should be able to hold you over throughout the 3 years as you renew your loan. The Grad Plus loan is not based off of your credit score. It is based off of your credit history. With that being said, you cannot have any, and I mean any, adverse credit history, or you will need a cosigner for this loan. So by adverse credit history, I mean no repossessions, no bankruptcies, no foreclosures. I'm not sure about short sales. You might have to look into that. Nothing in collections, nothing 90 days past late. And even if you have had your loans defaulted and you get them out of default, that may still hinder you from getting this loan by yourself. So if any of those fit you for whatever situation, everybody has different reasons, then you may want to look into finding a cosigner before you say yay or nay to a school. If you need to find a cosigner, which is very likely for a lot of graduate students, then you need to make sure that they do not apply to any of those previously stated adverse credit remarks. And basically what they're signing as your endorser is that if you were to fall behind or stop making payments on this loan once you graduate, or if you unfortunately do not finish the program, then they will be just as responsible to pay that money back. And as we all know, you cannot get rid of Sally Mae. She's gonna be there regardless, whether you're in the ICU working or in the ICU as a patient. She's still gonna want her money. So that basically says that the endorser or co-signer will take over your payments for you. And it also affects their credit as well. But just think about it in this sense. It's not the same as when you're an undergrad and you're going for your first degree and it's so uncertain if you're gonna finish or not, and if you don't finish, you really have nothing to fall back on. While you're in graduate school, you already have your degree as a nurse. So should you not be able to complete the program for whatever reason, you still have options that you can fall back on yourself to pay back this money. Now, it may set you back from what you were planning to do, but it's not like you'll just be flat out with nothing to fall back on. You do have your bachelor's to fall back on, and you can travel and pay the money back fairly quickly that way, or whatever option that you choose to do, you have the means to do so yourself. So that kind of gives a little bit more reassurance to your co-signer if they are someone who really believes in you and will put their name on your loan as well. Your next option is private loans. So this is a little bit different than the Grad Plus loan. Private loans are usually issued by a bank or financial institution, a credit union, that is based off of your credit history, your credit score, and your total income. Now, there are a little bit of different variances with the private loans than with the Grad Plus loan. So first, like I said, it's based off of all three and not just your credit history as the Grad Plus loan is. But also you have the option to sign up with a co-signer up front if you just know that you're not going to meet the criteria to get the loan on your own. You can bring that in. Versus the Grad Plus loan, you have to apply on your own first and then get denied, and then your endorser or co-signer has to fill out a separate form for you. These loans will also cover up to 100% of your tuition minus whatever FAFSA is going to give you for that year. So if your tuition is $100,000 and FAFSA gives you 20, they will cover the 80. Now, some banks and some institutions do have limits to how much they may lend you. So if your program is $120,000, FAFSA gives you 20, your bank is only going to give you 80, you have to come up with another $20,000 somewhere because that cap is $80,000. But most banks will cover just the total amount. And you may get a better offer because you are in a healthcare profession. Some institutions will provide better rates, interest rates, better loan limits for healthcare professions, be it CRNA, MD, whatever. Just as long as it's in the healthcare field, they may offer you better deals. So look into that. Now, if you have had a credit card by, let's say, Discover, and you want to apply for a Discover private loan, if you had any issues with that card, whether it got charged off or you were late a lot of the times, or they may have closed it down, you may not want to apply there first because more than likely they may kind of hold that against you for the private loan. So, but there's so many options out there for private loans that you're bound to find one that fits what you need. One of the huge benefits to private loans is what's called a co-signer release. So if you do need a co-signer for your loan, some institutions will offer a release to the co-signer. So let's say once you finish the program and you make 3 years worth of excellent payments, you never miss a payment, it's always on schedule, it's never late, you can say, hey, I've been doing really well with my payments, I don't need the co-signer, can we release them from this loan? So that way they're no longer responsible for your loan and your financial obligations, which is also a great incentive for the co-signer to say, hey, look, I trust you, I want you to do well in school, I'm gonna sign this loan, and I feel better now that there's a co-signer release after a certain amount of, on-time payments. So that's a very good way to try to get someone on board to co-sign for you. Now, once you have your financial situation squared away for school and you have your loans and you signed your promissory notes and you did the financial counseling and all that great jazz, you still need to take care of your personal financial responsibilities. So you need to make sure that you pay down as much as you can on either your car note or credit cards or your undergrad loans. Make sure you stay on top of those, because you're still going to need your credit for other things, such as, you know, getting an apartment, or once you move for clinicals, when clinicals start, you may have to relocate. So your credit may be a big factor in those moments. Try to clear off as much from your credit report as possible, and you get a free annual credit report every year at, I believe it's freeannualcreditreport.com, and it's completely free. You don't have to put in any card information, and it'll give you your report for each of the bureaus to look over, to make sure there's no errors, to make sure there's nothing that you paid off but it's still on there. You have to, you know, kind of look through each one and make sure that everything is in order. Work on getting your credit score up. So you may want to take out a credit card or a secured credit card where you put down a deposit for the limit, and that way that serves as collateral. And the best way to you know, stay on top of your credit cards is a general rule: no more than 10% of your limit. So you don't want to spend no more than 10% of your limit for each billing cycle, and that is a really good way to get your credit score up. No matter what the limit is, even if it's $100, no more than $10 on that card. So that should be very doable, and each cycle that will show that you are a responsible borrower, and that will shoot your credit score up. And please, 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 prevent your loans, your school loans, from going into default by any means necessary. Even if you fall behind, call and make an arrangement. If you missed a couple of payments, that's fine. Just don't let them go into default where they close your account and sell it off to some type of collection agency, because then you have to do a lot to get them out of default. And if your loans are in default, you cannot borrow any money from anywhere for school. So make sure that you know the status of your school loans and what you need to do to get them in the right conditions. Also, work on your savings. Try to save as much as you can. You don't have to save a crazy amount of money to start CRNA school. I know people who didn't have any money when they started CRNA school, and they did just fine. But about 8, 10, 12 grand should be a decent amount for you to start school as an emergency fund. If something goes awry, car issues, leakages everywhere, you know, you got to get new clothes for the winter. That can help you carry over, especially in between semesters and while you're waiting for your refund check to hit, and also when you graduate and you're waiting to take your boards and start working, you're gonna be skimped on money. So make sure that you have that emergency fund built up for you. So that's all I have on paying for school, saving for school, and my advice about loans and viable options for you to pay for CRNA school. So if you have any questions, comments, make sure you like, subscribe, turn your post notifications on, and with that being said, I'm out.